Over a decade ago, I went down a path that evolved into an obsession: anime. Early on in this journey, I found myself watching Bleach, and it was in that series, for the first time, I found myself enamored with a female character. Not because she was a waifu, not because she was overpowered, but because she was interesting. That girl was Rukia Kuchiki. As time has gone on, I've learned more about her and revisited the material, which brought me to the realization that her story is perfect. Well, almost. But we'll get to that. To understand the depth of her character and appreciate her immense growth, we have to start from the beginning. 150 years before the main story, Rukia and her sister Hisana lived in the slums of the Soul Society until Hisana abandoned her. Somehow, she survived long enough to bump into a boy named Renji, whom she quickly befriended, and together they put together a sort of surrogate family for orphans like themselves. Sounds nice, right? Well, within 10 years, everyone but those two had died. Rukia and Renji made a promise to become Shinigami to escape the place that had taken the lives of everyone they loved. When they do this, things basically go too well. She catches the eye of a noble named Byakuya Kuchiki. Because of this, she flies through the ranks and gets adopted by his family. But this ends up separating her and Renji. Before she can express her feelings about it, Renji congratulates her even if he doesn't mean it. Her feelings don't matter. You don't speak out against nobility. But hey, with the new family, she'll be gaining new relationships, right? Ready to bond, big bro? Rukia basically traded harsh living conditions for harsh social conditions. Byakuya appears uninterested in her. The way she flew through the whole process and ended up in what sounds like an ideal situation put her on a pedestal she didn't ask for. That makes making normal relationships difficult. If they weren't envious of her, they were wary of the power her family had. She was disheartened by this, and how could she not be? Wouldn't you if you seemingly got everything you wished for, except no one accepted you? One of the deeper aspects of her new family, the Kuchikis, is how associated they are with the color white. It's in their names. They see things as black and white, and they value purity. But she's not like them. This is why when Cayenne Shiba, who is part of the same division as her, treats her like a regular person, she's immediately drawn to him. He mentors her and tells her, "I'll stand by you." She sees him and his wife as role models because she's never had any. Things are good. Then Cayenne's wife is killed by a corrupted soul monster known as a Hollow. Consumed by revenge, Cayenne goes after that Hollow. Rukia offers to help, but is rejected. This is a matter of pride, so she doesn't intervene. That Hollow possesses Cayenne, who tries to murder Rukia, and this ends with her killing the man who had so kindly accepted her. This is the most traumatic moment of her life, and her guilt from this plays a huge role going forward. So far, she has cycled between loneliness and finding friendship, and because the positives of the cycle are always fleeting, each time she loses someone new that's important to her, it hurts her worse. It gives her a tremendous fear of losing people she cares about and a lack of feeling like she belongs. She is a Shinigami, she is a Kuchiki, but she doesn't feel like either. But her life changes when she meets Ichigo Kurosaki. When she's sent on a mission to the land of the living, she meets him, a human who can see her, and when they're attacked by a Hollow, his devotion to protecting his family and the desperation of the situation leads her to giving him half of her power so that he can slay it. Except he accidentally takes all of it. A man named Urahara witnesses this, and with his expertise crafts her a body she can use in the human world, while also regaining her power. All of a sudden, she's been given something she's never had before: a regular life. Instead of poverty, loss, or expectations, she receives freedom and joy. Being around Ichigo, she makes friends. We see the lighter parts of her personality. She hangs out in closets like she's Harry Potter. She adorably can't open a juice box, and she excels at giving hand-drawn PowerPoint presentations. Somehow, this girl who has known so much loneliness and craved mentorship becomes a mentor to Ichigo. It's more than that though. When she stabbed him to give him power, she shared something more, her soul, and their bond runs deep. There's also a sad parallel between the two. Ichigo feels tremendous guilt over the death of his mother, much like Rukia does with Cayenne. So when we see the Hollow that killed Ichigo's mother appear, it's a cycle repeating. Ichigo, like Cayenne before him, tells Rukia not to intervene, and she listens. Ichigo lives, but this weighs on her. It doesn't get easier when she's asked what her relationship with Ichigo is. She's grown far too attached to him. You'd think that's a good thing, but for her, this always ends in loss. Her power hasn't returned either. She decides to distance herself from him by leaving, and she does not want to be followed. While in this vulnerable state, Renji appears, then Byakuya. What she's done, giving power to a human, is a serious crime in the Soul Society. Remember, Byakuya is a stickler for the rules, and she can't stand up to him. That's when Ichigo arrives. A fight ensues, but her brother is too much for her friend. She can't watch another person she cares about die. So before the finishing blow, she bluffs and says, "He's not worth killing. Just take me and go." She tells Ichigo off too, trying to dissuade any potential for future harm to him, and then she's taken back to the Soul Society. From here, it's a whirlwind of emotions. She learns she will be executed for her crime, but what truly breaks her isn't the punishment, it's everything else. The guilt of Ichigo getting hurt because of her. The weight of Cayenne's death looms to the point she feels her execution is justified. She learns Ichigo is attempting to save her. She senses Renji's spiritual pressure vanish, wiped out by her own brother. Then to top it off, Cayenne's brother Ganju is part of the team trying to rescue her. It's all too much. Then Gin Ichimaru gives her one more metaphorical dagger to the heart. He says, "I'll help you escape." And for a moment, she feels hope again. This forces her to confront the fact that she does want to live, that death is an excuse to stop her pain. But Gin only said it for the lulz, to give her hope, then tear it away. And that's exactly what it does. As she's waiting to be executed by Firebird, she makes one final request. Please spare her friends. Even now, she's worried about losing others, and you can see the lack of value she places in her own life. When that request is agreed to, this is the closest she gets to feeling at peace. And it's at this moment that Ichigo arrives and saves her. No matter what happens, he will always be there to do so. Her life has value, especially to others. It makes sense that the person who breaks her mental shackles is the person she essentially shared her soul with. She can feel his strength, and while she won't thank him, she does smile. But this doesn't fix everything. She wants to help, and she's told no, again being helpless to defend someone she cares about as Ichigo takes on her brother. Oh, there's been something looming in the background during all of this. When Urahara gave her a human body, he added something called the Hogyoku, which is still inside her. This is the reason her powers didn't return before. It turned her self-loathing, her feeling of powerlessness, into reality and kept her from recovering. This is also the real reason she was sentenced to death. It was a conspiracy to retrieve the Hogyoku. Aizen extracts this from her, but her life is spared when Byakuya of all people comes to her rescue. But it makes sense. Ichigo defeated Byakuya, and this shifted his perspective. Long ago, he married Hisana, and she felt tremendous guilt over abandoning her sister. She made him promise to find and protect Rukia. This is why he brought her into his family. Up until this point, he had been torn between two conflicting oaths, one to his wife and one to uphold the rules. But seeing how Ichigo managed to shake up the entire Soul Society gave him the strength to choose a path. He may not have shown it, but he has always cared for and wanted to protect Rukia, and here he can finally do so from Aizen. She can rely on him now. After all the neglect, all the apathy, how out of place he made her feel, he finally apologizes. This is something she desperately needed, both for her heart and her identity. She wasn't as alone as she thought. While this seemingly closes one open wound, there remains another, and now she's not going to sit back and be passive about it anymore. She gains the courage to approach Cayenne's siblings and apologizes for their brother's death, and not having the courage to do so earlier. Until now, she hadn't felt like an active participant in her own life. She wants to showcase her resolve now and make decisions for herself, first of which is staying in the Soul Society. But the story isn't over. Recognizing flaws is not the same as overcoming them. From now on, she'll be different. Her power returns. After spending so much time being protected by others, she's capable of protecting them back because, like Ichigo, that's her nature. Ichigo inspired her to move forward, and when he's struggling with his inner hollow, she does the same for him. Before, she stood idly by when her friends fought. Now, she aids them of her own volition. It's nice to see someone who is struggled with her place in life and society, then put in a position to help someone else going through something similar. Orihime feels useless, and Rukia supports her the way she wished others had supported her. She's living proof that you're only in the way if you lack resolve. But character growth is rarely linear, so let's test Rukia's resolve. Orihime is captured and Rukia finds herself face to face with Cayenne. Here, her weakness re-emerges. When he asks her to atone by sacrificing her life, she agrees. But something is different. She needs to save Orihime first. Cayenne tells her to slay her friends, and it dawns on her, this isn't really him. He would never ask her to do that. She defeats the man wearing the face of her greatest failure, and in the process, she conquers the trauma and guilt associated with it. Later on, when Ichigo loses his powers and his ability to see her begins to fade away, she tells him, don't worry, even though you won't be able to see me, I'll be watching you. This is why I like her so much. We see so much growth in her character and she does it for herself. The typical shonen girl complaints being useless, over-sexualized, not developing, being one note, none of these apply to her. She overcame her trauma and guilt. She found value in her own life. She's gone from passive observer to protector and shown her resolve. Great story, right? So why is she nearly perfect? I hate to say it, especially if you've come this far, but here goes. Rukia was the first character Kubo created. She was the first character we see in the anime. She kickstarts the events of the series. And now, she's a side character. It's not that her story gets worse, it's that she isn't around. Here's when it hit me. After a decade of not watching, my admiration for the series had waned considerably, but I decided to pick things back up with the Fullbring arc. After going basically the entire arc without her, when she finally arrived, out of nowhere, I started to tear up. I had no idea she meant that much to me as a character, but clearly she did, and those emotions couldn't be held back. That moment was part of the cycle too. At the beginning of the series, it's her stabbing Ichigo that awakens the power inside him. In the Fullbring arc, his power returns by her blade once again. Or in Thousand Year Blood War, she comes face to face with a man who defeated Byakuya. His ability is to inflict fear on his opponents, but here it doesn't work because she's technically not alive? What? Turns out, her true power allows her to drop her body temp below freezing so she's unaffected. That's cool, but that can't be how you defeat fear. Like the rest of her story, there must be struggle, which is why, of course, her opponent makes her feel it anyway. And it's the same fear she's had all along, that of losing her loved ones. And when Byakuya saves her, you think maybe she's reverting to leaning on him too much, but no. He acknowledges her strength and her as an individual, then leaves to let her finish the job, which she does by unleashing her Bankai for the first time, all white, tying all the way back to the Kuchiki white symbolism stuff. It's perfect. Unfortunately, these are the only two moments she has in the last 60 episodes of the series that felt that way, mainly because she's barely in any of those episodes. Is it nitpicky? For sure. But that's the thing with perfection. You either are or you aren't. Now subscribe or die.